has called for the Israeli government to immediately release South Africans and other nationals detained after Israeli naval forces intercepted the Global Sumud Flotilla in international waters off Gaza. At least 44 countries were represented in the 500-person flotilla, including the United States, the United Kingdom, Belgium, Spain, Malaysia, Turkey and Colombia. We're joined now on the line by Ali Komapi, who is spokesperson for Africa for Palestine. Ali, thank you for joining us this morning. How are you?
Good morning, and thank you for having us.
Just to start with this, were you part of this flotilla?
No, we were not part of the flotilla. Members and Associate of Africa for Palestine. We are a human rights organization based in South Africa. They were part of the flotilla. Not me personally. Yeah. You will not be speaking to me now. They are still abducted in Israel.
Yeah, I meant Africa for Palestine, the group, sorry, there. But
Yes.
what correspondence are you getting then from Gaza, from some of your members as well as others there, if you are getting
We are
any
not getting.
messages?
We are not getting any. They've confiscated their passports. They've confiscated their cell phones. There's no mode of communication with them. What we know is only the updates the Israeli apartheid regime is giving to the world. I mean, everybody that they are vetting them, whatever, and they'll deport them, whatever. They are saying that, but we don't know their status. Are they healthy? Are they still alive? We have no idea.
The president of the country, South Africa, Cyril Ramaphosa, has called for the release of these detained persons by the Israeli forces. Is that call alone enough?
Of course not. For example, the Colombian government, this happened in the early hours of the morning. The Colombian government there and then expelled all Israeli diplomats, all Israeli representatives from their country, because this is an act of aggression on a sovereign state. So Cyril Ramaphosa calling for demanding the release of the 5 South Africans is not enough. We think there are more stringent measures he can take. Part of those is doing what Colombia has done. We know that we have severed all diplomatic ties with Israel as per the government's parliament's resolution and so on. But we still have some representatives of Israel in this country. I think he must just send out what is popularly known because of Trump, an executive order from the president to say that all Israelis and Israeli representatives from this country must leave in 24 hours simply because of the act of aggression against South Africa by Israel.
What kind of response would you recommend from other countries in the region, as well as the international community, in terms of responding to Israel's interception of the Gaza flotilla?
One of the allies of South Africa during the apartheid era, who supported our struggle, the Prime Minister of Sweden, said that the South African problem is that they want to reform apartheid. They want to make apartheid look and sound better. He said, no, you can't do that. You have to collapse apartheid and you must build democracy from the ground up. States in the region, state internationally, must stop treating Israel like it's a normal state. They must stop trying to encourage Israel to reform, to be a democracy, the only democracy in the Middle East that supports human rights. Cannot. The apartheid regime of Israel must collapse. Therefore, the appropriate action from states in the region and globally is to isolate the apartheid state of Israel like they did South Africa through arms embargoes, through economic sanctions, through sports and academic boycotts, through other measures to isolate the apartheid state of Israel, just like they did South Africa. It is not a normal state. It has no capacity to reform. It's a pariah state. In fact, we've been saying for quite some time, together with Palestinians, that Israel is actually a criminal syndicate. It's a mafia organization moonlighting as a state. There's nothing legal that they are doing. There's nothing legal on the premise of establishing an Israeli state on Palestinian historical lands. It's a criminal syndicate and they must be treated as such.
We spoke earlier as Rise and Shine here on Channel Africa to Israel's ambassador, South Africa's ambassador to Israel rather, and he was citing this entire situation as not a war of Israel against Palestine, but a war between Israel and Hamas and other insurgents that they've been battling. What do you make of that statement in terms of what we've seen now, especially with this latest incident?
Just a few correction in context. We do not have an ambassador to Israel. We only have a representative to the mission. We do not have we cut diplomatic ties with Israel. We don't have an ambassador. We did this, I think, in 2014, 2015, I'm not mistaken. But this is not a war. In fact, it's a mischaracterization if we were to call it a war or a conflict. Let's give context. People in Gaza don't have an army. They don't have a government. They don't have a navy. They don't have an air force. All they do is try to resist the apartheid occupation of Israel through what many in the defense industry call them fireworks, for a silly excuse for rockets. So there's no war. War would mean that there's two sides probably equal fighting. No, it's a genocide. One group of people is trying to annihilate. One group of people is trying to wipe another group of people off the face of the. Just imagine if they said during apartheid there was a war in South Africa. That would be an insult to it. It was not a war. It was one group of people, Afrikaners, oppressing the black native nation. So in Palestine, there's no such thing as a war. In fact, Hamas, it would be a mischaracterization to say Hamas is the one that's fighting. No, Hamas is only just one of the resistance movement in Palestine. There are many, including the Islamic Jihad and others who are fighting in Palestine against the occupation by apartheid Israel. It is not a war. What's happening in Gaza is a genocide, and it's not only Hamas. The number of Palestinian organizations that are effectively putting a resistance against the occupation, just like there was ANC in South Africa, there was PAC, there was AZAPO, to minimize the struggle in South Africa for freedom is a war between the ANC and the National Party government, would have been an insult. So it is not a war between the apartheid state of Israel and one resistance movement. It's a genocide, but by one apartheid oppressive organization on an entire group of people.
As Africa for Palestine, will you be now approaching the presidency and asking for more action?
Of course. I mean, this is also calls from the South African citizens who are now kidnapped by Israel. This is an act of aggression. For a better way, can be interpreted as an act of war against South Africa. It's illegal. Israel has no jurisdiction in international waters, especially on boats that are carrying a state flag. In international law, if a boat is in international waters carrying a state flag, and any act against that boat is an act against that flag nation. So in this particular case, like I said, Colombia has done the same. They've expelled all Israelis and Israeli representatives of the government from their country. South Africa must do the same. Cyril Ramaphosa and the South African government has no business having normal ties with a state that regards us like this.
Ali, we'll
the president of this country.
Thank you so much for your insights and for making time to chat to us this morning. We appreciate it.
Thank you for it.
We are completely out of time. Sorry to interject there. But Ali Komape is spokesperson for Africa for Palestine, some of their members being part of that Global Sumud Flotilla in the international waters off Gaza, where they've been intercepted by Israeli naval forces. It's 8 o'clock Central African time. We enter now the third and final hour of Rise and Shine. This is Channel Africa from the African perspective. We are on www.channelafrica.co.za. My name is Asanda Beta. Let's say good morning to Dwelane Tulo Ngwepe. She has our news bulletin, and then headlines sports-wise will come after her by Fikile Lingwati.
SABC News. The African perspective.
Thank you, Asanda. Good morning. The family of South Africa's former President Nelson Mandela is calling for urgent intervention following the interception of the flotilla vessels trying to carry aid to Gaza. President Cyril Ramaphosa issued a call for the immediate release of South Africa's detainees by Israeli forces yesterday. Among those confirmed detained are 3 South Africans, including former President Nelson Mandela's grandson, Mandla Mandela, acclaimed author Zukiswa Wana, and activist Riaz Mula. Mandela family member is Ndileka Mandela.
No one can contact any of the people